We all knew that it was a matter of time for Gunther to get a world championship opportunity. And thanks to him winning the King of the Ring tournament, he's gonna be getting that championship opportunity, which is already set in stone at SummerSlam. Which, by the way, Triple H, you should have just started the whole tournament by telling us that the King and Queen of the Ring winners were gonna get a championship opportunity at SummerSlam. It would have made us care so much more right from the beginning. On another side note, I do hope that they make this a permanent thing. If the King of the Ring is going to become a yearly tradition, then I do hope that every single year the winner gets a championship opportunity at SummerSlam. And frankly, it works kind of nicely with SummerSlam now going to 2 nights. It can kind of be a mirror of the Royal Rumble to WrestleMania. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. Back to Gunther. Now that we know that Gunther is going to be getting that championship opportunity at SummerSlam, now we're all speculating who that championship opportunity is going to be against. Because right now, the World Heavyweight Championship picture is quite muddy, and it is full of a lot of very credible contenders. Very credible contenders that could very well walk into SummerSlam as the champion and be the one that Gunther has to face off against. So in today's video, we're going to review Gunther's best options. We're going to go through who I think are the most likely candidates that Gunther will face at SummerSlam. And we'll decide whether or not that's a good option to be the World Heavyweight Champion going into this year's event. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I know that you're going to fall in love with his YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. And it almost feels like every single video that I upload, there is a slightly deeper fall into madness with how crazy my beard and my hair is getting. I still haven't found my beard trimmers. I'm starting to think that I might have lost them in the move. I'm going to continue to keep you updated because I'm sure that there's people in the comment section that care about whether or not my beard is going to finish the story. But now let's just actually jump into what you click for. So let's start off with the most obvious options, and the most obvious option is the current World Heavyweight Champion, Damian Priest. He is likely the one who is going to walk into SummerSlam. I think that if there are odds on this, he is probably the odds-on favorite because he could lose potentially at Clash at the Castle. There's also Money in the Bank and maybe subsequent episodes of Monday Night Raw in between. So if you have Damian Priest as your favorite to walk into SummerSlam, I don't necessarily blame you. I think that all of the context is showing that it could very well be Damian Priest, but I don't necessarily think that just because he's the most likely option that he's the best option. I think in order for us to get excited over Damian Priest versus Gunther, you have to pull the trigger on making Damian Priest a babyface. And I do think that you have all of the right tools to be able to pull it off between now and SummerSlam. You have Liv Morgan maybe turning everyone from the Judgment Day to the dark side, maybe leaving Damian Priest as a lone wolf type of character, trying to regroup and trying to get the soul of Judgment Day back together. It's possible that that might be the route that they go with. But I think that the fall and the descent of the Judgment Day is a storyline that, I mean, if I'm Triple H and I'm seeing what Triple H has been doing recently, I don't think that the short amount of time that we have between now and SummerSlam is enough time to tell that story. The Judgment Day has been around for years at this point, being an incredibly dominant faction, that it would be kind of a disservice if they were to just disband and dissolve and have Damian Priest go off on his own in as little as about 2 months. So because of the time crunch, I don't see how we can realistically right now turn Damian Priest babyface. And I don't think that it would be a good dynamic for Gunther to go up against another bad guy. I think that Gunther needs to be the guy that topples another babyface to become the World Heavyweight Champion. If you want to cement Gunther as the top heel of the company, he needs to stomp a mud hole into one of Raw's good guys. And I just don't think that we have enough time to make Damian Priest into one of those Raw good guys. I think that we need a little bit more time. We'll see though. Like I said, he is still most likely the odds-on favorite to walk into SummerSlam as the champion, but I like other options personally. There's of course Drew McIntyre, who has a world championship opportunity already scheduled at Clash at the Castle. And I'm really excited for that match, and it might make me a hypocrite considering I just said that Gunther versus Damian Priest would be a little bit weird because that would be heel versus heel, considering that Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre is technically heel versus heel. However, and I've mentioned this in previous videos, it is heel versus heel. However, it's not heel versus heel on that particular day for that particular event for that particular match because Drew McIntyre is going to be in front of a home crowd giving him a babyface-like reaction. The heel of that match is going to be Damian Priest. Don't be surprised if Damian does all of the limb targeting, does all of the heel moves that you would traditionally expect from the heel going into the match, and I wouldn't expect anything other than a babyface moveset from Drew McIntyre on that night. So even though it is heel versus heel, it's still likely going to be a heel versus babyface dynamic that night on Glasgow. I think that Drew McIntyre could be a great foil to Gunther, but he's just doing such a good job at being a bastard of a human being that I don't think that he's the right guy for Gunther to go off against at SummerSlam. But frankly, if the CM Punk match is available for SummerSlam, that's the match that you need to go with for Drew McIntyre. That's the match that's been built up since WrestleMania. That is the match that we all want to see. And Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk doesn't need the World Heavyweight Championship. In fact, I think that the World Heavyweight Championship would make that match feel less personal and more business-like. I've talked about this in previous videos. So because, in my opinion, there's a much better option for Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam, this match with CM Punk in its own right without a title is a main event worthy match. Because of that, I just don't see how we can take that match away from us and do Drew McIntyre versus Gunther as good as that could be, because what we want is Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk. You could load up SummerSlam and do Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, and Gunther versus whoever it is that he faces at SummerSlam for the World Heavyweight Championship, and have a really stacked card and do the most that you can with your available talent pool from Monday Night Raw. So as much as I do think that Drew McIntyre is amazing, I think that he's going to get screwed out of the championship victory at Clash at the Castle, most likely CM Punk, to set up this feud, to set up this match at SummerSlam, which prevents Drew McIntyre from being the guy that walks into SummerSlam as the World Heavyweight Championship. So I don't think that this is going to happen. We mentioned him already, so we might as well talk about it, because CM Punk is one of those sharks that will inevitably be back in the World Heavyweight Championship picture, but I just don't see how it makes sense for CM Punk to come back before SummerSlam, win the World Heavyweight Championship, and then walk into SummerSlam and not face Drew McIntyre. He would have to face Gunther, and that just doesn't make sense. Here's the thing. Gunther versus CM Punk, absolutely a match that I want to see. Likely after SummerSlam makes the most sense. Because right now, I admittedly have blinders on. I want to see Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk, and I don't want anything and anyone to ruin the possibility of that match happening, even if it is Gunther. So even though CM Punk will undoubtedly be part of the World Heavyweight Championship picture, even though CM Punk will most likely be a challenger against Gunther if Gunther becomes the World Heavyweight Champion after SummerSlam, I still don't see how we can connect the dots and make this make sense for SummerSlam. Here's actually who I think is going to walk into SummerSlam as the World Heavyweight Champion. I think it could be main event Jey Uso. A lot of people are forgetting about him. Don't forget that he's already had a World Championship match against Damian Priest, a match that he had won. It took Damian Priest 2 members of the Judgment Day for him to be able to pull out the victory against Jey Uso. On top of that, and I know I'm a bit of a broken record, people always say take a shot every time that Santi says that Jey Uso's the top babyface of Monday Night Raw, but it is true. Jey Uso is the biggest babyface on all of Monday Night Raw. Top babyface, probably sells the most merch and gets the loudest crowd reactions as a babyface, and he was the #1 pick of Monday Night Raw. This is who they're going to build the summer and the fall around on Monday Night Raw. Again, look at the available baby faces. It's basically him by default, and that's it. Who else is at the top of the echelon that could be a realistic threat to Damian Priest as a babyface? Right now, no one. Everyone that is surrounding the World Heavyweight Championship is a heel. And I don't think that you needed to pull the trigger right away on Jey Uso versus Damian Priest as a rematch, because you know that you had Clash at the Castle right there, and it was a foregone conclusion that if Drew McIntyre was healthy, that they were going to do Drew McIntyre there. But you know, at least I know, that Drew McIntyre is probably not walking out with the World Heavyweight Championship picture via shenanigans, but that still leaves us with Money in the Bank shortly after Clash at the Castle. So don't be surprised if Jey Uso gets a championship opportunity at Money in the Bank and becomes your World Heavyweight Champion. Maybe Jey Uso wins the Money in the Bank briefcase and cashes in at some point before SummerSlam. If you want to be poetic about this and involve some bloodline stuff, don't forget that the reason why Jey Uso hasn't been able to win a world championship or any championship of a singles variety has been because of Jimmy Uso. And now that Jimmy Uso is out on screen, it's actually a perfect opportunity for him to win gold, because it actually will show the world that the only reason he hasn't won is is because of Jimmy, and now that Jimmy's gone, he's a world champion. I don't love Jey Uso, but I do think that on paper, he makes the most sense. He's got history with Gunther as well. He would go into SummerSlam as a super popular babyface, taking on somebody that he has history and legacy with in Gunther, and then Gunther could absolutely outright destroy Jey Uso, thus cementing Gunther as the top world champion. I'm going to throw another thing out there. Let's say that it is Damian Priest that walks into SummerSlam as the World Heavyweight Champion. I don't think that it's going to be a one-on-one match between Damian and Gunther. If Damian walks into SummerSlam as champion, don't be surprised if they insert Jey Uso and make this into a triple threat, because that's how you can make this narrative actually make sense in terms of storytelling in the ring, because you need a babyface in there. So Jey Uso is actually the pick that I'm going with. I think he's the pick that makes the most sense, frankly. All right, let's do some more out there picks that I don't think people are necessarily thinking about. Let's talk about Ilia Dragunov. We talked about Ilia Dragunov heavily going up against Gunther in the past, most likely at Bash in Berlin, and I'm not going to back down from that. I do think that Gunther wins at SummerSlam, walks into Bash in Berlin as World Heavyweight Champion, and the main event will be Gunther versus Ilia Dragunov. It's just too perfect. Both of these guys have deep roots and have lived in Germany. Like, it's just too perfect. But I don't think that Ilia Dragunov is going to be getting any world championship opportunities before SummerSlam. I think it's going to be reserved for after SummerSlam, for when Gunther actually wins. And I'm pretty sure that it's a foregone conclusion, even if it's not a Bash at Berlin, that we will get Gunther versus Ilia Dragunov. They've already been hinting at it during the King of the Ring tournament when they had a little stare down. So it's going to happen. It just doesn't make sense for it to happen at SummerSlam when you have Bash at Berlin literally less than a month after SummerSlam. But it's intriguing to think that Gunther winning almost by default helps elevate Ilia Dragunov into the main event scene, because so many of us want to see Ilia versus Gunther. And if Gunther is at the top of the food chain, is world champion, then all of us are gonna want and clamor for Ilia versus Gunther at the top of the main event card. Not enough people are talking about Seth Rollins. I don't know how long he's out. You don't know how long he's out. No one really knows how long Seth Rollins is out. So it's not an impossibility that he could come back potentially before SummerSlam, win the World Heavyweight Championship, get a rematch, because he never really got a rematch clause, and then go into SummerSlam as the World Heavyweight Champion. And that again gives Gunther a huge babyface to be able to win the World Heavyweight Championship from. However, it is all timing. Like, we just don't have enough time for this to truly make sense. It would also admittedly be weird that Seth Rollins has a 1-year reign as World Heavyweight Champion, wins it only to lose it like a month later to Gunther. That just doesn't really fit. I will say Gunther versus Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship at some point needs to happen and is most likely going to happen. But I just don't think that it's going to happen at this year's SummerSlam, but it's an intriguing thought nonetheless. Next, we have Sami Zayn, the guy that beat Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship all the way back at WrestleMania, and they never have really crossed paths again ever since. I do think that we have to inevitably get this rematch, even if it's not for the Intercontinental Championship, but it is a little bit odd that Gunther doesn't want to get his win back or cares about getting his win back. But Gunther is in greener pastures going after the World Heavyweight Championship. Sami Zayn is entrenched deeply into the Intercontinental Championship picture. If it does happen, it's likely going to be months, maybe a year down the line. I don't see how we can get Sami Zayn ready to become a world champion before SummerSlam and walk into the show as World Heavyweight Champion. It doesn't really make any sense, but I want to reiterate, I deeply want to see Gunther versus Sami Zayn again, because their match at SummerSlam was just so bloody good. This man's name has been kicking around quite a bit over the last couple of weeks. Brock Lesnar has had his ban lifted. I don't know what that means. All I know is that his ban is lifted. And we've been hearing the commentators and Kevin Owens mention by name Brock Lesnar when regarding to something to Paul Heyman or to King of the Ring. And we all wanted to see Gunther versus Brock Lesnar at the most recent WrestleMania. And even before that, that's a fantasy match that so many of us have wanted to see. And I wouldn't be surprised if we do get Gunther versus Brock Lesnar at some point, but in my opinion, it'll be when Gunther is the World Heavyweight Champion, not Brock Lesnar walking in as the World Heavyweight Champion, because I just don't see a world where, even if, you know, it's all proven that none of this happened with Brock Lesnar, his name is tainted enough that I don't know if the WWE would want to put one of their their marquee world titles on him ever again. In fact, I think that at this point, Brock is better served to elevate the next main event talent, and that could be Gunther, and help cement him as a true legitimate world champion. But Damian Priest is champion, and if you have even a little bit of pigmentation to your skin, Brock Lesnar tends to beat you for the world title. That's just kind of the rules of life, apparently. Also, why didn't Kofi Kingston ever get a rematch? What's up with that? I like the matchup. I just don't like it for SummerSlam in terms of what needs to happen in order for Brock to become champion in such a short amount of time. I just don't think that it makes a heck of a lot of sense, but I do want to see this down the line. SummerSlam is just not the right place. Could it be Braun Strowman? I think this is maybe the most underwhelming option available, but Braun Strowman is in the World Heavyweight Championship picture. He's having face-offs with Damian Priest, taking out the Judgment Day. He's already called a shot. He wants a chance at Damian Priest. Damian Priest is down, so I wouldn't be surprised if maybe this is a World Championship matchup that could happen at Money in the Bank or on some episodes of Monday Night Raw leading into SummerSlam. But, you know, the realist in me says that the time of Braun Strowman as the top champion has gone by us. I just don't see how it makes any sense or how it could actually get anyone excited to have Braun Strowman be world champion. I like Braun Strowman, but I don't like him that much. But I think he's worth mentioning because, like I said, he is one of those sharks around the World Heavyweight Championship picture. And I'll throw a Braun Breaker as well, but I do think it's a case of not enough time, as it's been the case for a couple of these people. But come on. Dude, Braun Breaker is going to become a world champion within a year. Have you seen what this man is doing? They are doing such a good job of booking him after months of booking him terribly. Now, all of a sudden, they turned on the switch and realized, oh shit, yeah, we forgot that this is our generational talent. We forgot that this is our next top guy of the company. So let's start treating him as such. And the last time I saw somebody being treated like this, it was Brock Lesnar back in 2002. And Brock Lesnar did win a WWE championship at SummerSlam, but I don't think that him walking into SummerSlam as the world champion, it makes sense right now with the feud that he's got going on with Ricochet and Ilia Dragunov. I'd rather see that play out. I'd rather see some matches between those three, some premium live event matches between those three. But Braun Breaker and Gunther is going to happen. And if Gunther goes on some dominant run as champion, I think it could be Braun Breaker that beats him. All right, folks, that's today's video. Hopefully for tomorrow, I will be a little bit more cleaned up, but that's it. I'm done. Get out of here.